Hi there, Tim from Kayan. We're underneath the 250 again, and today we're going to have a chat about the X700 range of underbody protection for the 250. Now, if you want to tackle those tougher tracks or those bigger trips, you probably want the confidence of making sure that you don't damage any of the sort of sensitive, delicate and critical components underneath your vehicle. For example, your radiator, your sump and your transmission. Now, the factory guards, they're quite thin. They're made out of plastic even. They don't really offer any real protection for those critical components. So traditional offerings on the market have been strong but heavy steel, or lighter but not as durable aluminium. Now, the way we've approached the underbody protection is to use an X700 high performance, high grade steel. They're 700 megapascal, which is roughly 3 times stronger than your mild steels or your stainless steels. What that allows us to do is create a lightweight yet really strong underbody protection. If you want to find out more about the differences and the way we approach underbody protection, check out our other video that goes through the different materials and the different features of our guards. The other thing we've done with the 250 that is a little bit different, we've had to address some issues which we'll go through later in this video. But for now, let's get these guards installed. Let's have a look at the factory underbody protection. Now, a lot of car manufacturers nowadays, they're trying to save weight because that saves fuel, costs less to manufacture and so forth. But as you can see, the underbody protection is quite thin and weak. So this is only 1.2 millimeters and I can easily flex that with my hands. The sump guard here behind it is just plastic. So obviously that doesn't offer very much protection. And then if we move further back, the transmission's not protected at all. Some of them have a little tiny guard here, but this one's exposed. Now, if you hit that, that's a showstopper. The other thing we've noticed too is the construction of this front crossmember area is a little bit lighter than what we've seen in previous vehicles. And we've actually had some reports of that crossmember collapsing and damaging the aircon and the radiator behind it. Now, these are all the sort of things that we've considered when designing our underbody protection. First thing to do is to remove this little plastic trim. This is for a factory bumper. If you've got a bull bar, you might need to remove the splash guard first, depending on your vehicle. So we'll get this one. Here's a 10 mil, and there's a little clip in the middle as well, and a trim clip here. So this should just drop down. Now save this because we'll be replacing this for later. Okay, grab a 12 mil socket and we'll remove bolts here. Did you get that on camera? Yeah. It's a good thing to make these nice and light because it doesn't hurt when it falls on your head. Learn from my mistakes. So even the plastic one has a bit of a clip, so just push it back and it should drop down. Okay, that's all off. Now just check that all your surfaces are all good and nice and clean before we install the actual bash plates. So one thing that's a little bit different with our underbody protection for the 250 is that we've designed some extra chassis bracing to support and strengthen up this radiator support, which means we actually have to take this tie-down point down. So let's go ahead and do that. On both sides. So what the braces that we've put up here will do is help transfer the load right through to the chassis rails instead of just letting the middle of this crossmember bend. Now, the first thing to do once all the bash plates are off is to install the front crossmember support. Now, we've made quite a substantial support because what we want to do is strengthen up this weak area here because obviously that's going to bend quite easily, and the combination of our braces and our UVP together will transfer all the loads through to the chassis, which is where you want the loads to go. So to get this installed, you'll see the chamfer on the bottom there. Slide it into the hole in the crossmember and we'll reinstall the tie-down points. Now we just want to loosely nip these up. Still want to be able to sort of move them into place, but we don't want them hanging down low. So I'll get that up there. Okay, and you'll notice there's a threaded hole in this brace here to help tie everything together. So that's still loose, so we can actually manipulate everything, and we'll do that with the other side as well. These are actually handed, so make sure you get the right one. Now, during our simulations and our FEA analysis, these braces made a huge difference to how much deflection you get in the middle there. I think it halved, at least, or more, halved the deflection you're going to see in the middle. And that's without our bash plates. So with the additional strength of the extra folds and supports of our bash plates, should make a massive difference. Okay, so they're all in there loose. Next thing to do, we can pre-install the bolts. This is an M10 fine, so make sure you get the right bolt and washer. That threads up into the brace, and then the M8 up into the captive nut in the radiator crossmember, or the front crossmember. Now that everything's out of the way, you can see that there's an air conditioning condenser there and an evaporator or condenser, and then a radiator behind it. So there's some soft stuff up behind there. Make sure I get the right bolt. So it's not the inner ones, it's these outer ones. Okay, so get them started by a few threads. And what this allows us to do is slide the bash plate on. So I'll go grab the front guard, and you should be able to slide it on. There you go, and it'll hang there. And I'll get the two M8 bolts for the back, and I'll get those installed as well. M8. Now we don't want to tighten these all the way up, we just want to get them started, because we need to slide the sump guard up in between the two. There you go. So we'll just leave it all loose for now, and we'll tighten it all up later on. So that's the front guard installed. Now onto the sump guard. Now with the guard off, you can see we've got the drivetrain here that we want to protect, but more importantly, the sump. So this is attached to the engine.
Engine anatomy with Tim.
The sump bone's connected to the engine bone. You can see in here we have the drivetrain we want to protect, as well as the actual sump of the motor. Now on some of our other vehicles, other designs, we offer a opening, a hatch or a ramp to make it easier to change the oil. Because of this awkward position of the outlet and the sump on the 250, we decided that any of those options were actually not going to make it that much easier to change the oil. So we've focused on making the actual guard easy to remove, as well as optimizing for strength. So the way we install this is we just slide it up. There's some slots there, so you can just slide it up. So that's why it's important when you put the front guard on not to tighten this one all the way up. Make sure you leave a gap there so you can slide the guards in. And we just install these M8 bolts at the back. Again, just enough threads to hold the guards in place, because we'll position everything and tighten it up once we've finished installing all the guards. Okay, there you go. Now you can see with this sump guard we've got these folds to add that extra strength, because if you're going to drop your vehicle in the middle here, you want to make sure it's going to hold. Okay, that's a sump guard. Onto the transmission guard. Now with the 250, this is actually quite interesting. The cross members on the 250 are really far apart, so this transmission guard is actually quite big, which also means there's a big sort of opening and a gap at the ramp over area, and we want to protect this transmission sump. So there's the long bolts and short bolts. The long bolts go to the back, the short bolts go to the front. I'm going to start these short bolts and washers on the back of this sump guard. Just makes it easier when I'm trying to lift the guard up and tighten at the same time. So what I'll do now is I'll grab this really long transmission guard. Look how big that sucker is. I meant the guard. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll actually just nip these up so it doesn't fall on my head. Okay, so that's the front sorted, and then we'll get this back installed. Now the back here, there's actually no captive nuts up in this center cross member. So we got some nut blocks, some unistrut nut blocks and an M8 bolt, and we'll just get that up in there. With this uni-strut nut, the trick to this one is to hold it down while you tighten it to stop it from rotating. Once it's sort of nipped up, it holds itself quite well. And I'll grab the one on the other side and do the same thing. Again, I'm not tightening these ones all up yet. Okay. Just loosen that off a bit. Okay. Now we've got all the guards up, they're all loosely attached. We're going to tighten everything up and position everything, make sure it's all in position. The way I like to do this is to first, not quite tighten these up, but get these nipped up because they're still loose. So let's go do the tie down points and the chassis brace first. We'll go and torque those up later, but just need to make sure they don't move. So I'm going to start tightening up these front bolts on the front guard. Now what I like to do is I like to make sure it's pushed all the way back. So that's all the way back. And I'll nip up this one. And then onto the M8s. And again, I'll come back and torque them up later. We're just snugging them all up. I'll just check that this transmission is in the right position. The best thing to do there is actually push up the back there. And what I'll actually do is I'll tighten the back ones here while pushing this one forward. And I know when it's all aligned nicely because I've got a nice even gap in between the two. It looks really nice. Now that's good, I can tighten that up. And moving back to the transmission, just loosen this one off and push it up. Yep. Tighten that one up. And then onto the back. One last check to make sure we're happy with how it's all sitting in the gaps. And that looks really tidy. Now we've made provision to reattach this factory trim piece, and it actually sits in there very nicely. Even the sort of approach angles work. So I'll grab the bolts we removed and the clip we removed earlier. Put the clip in the middle first because that helps hold everything in place. M10. There you go. So it works really well with the factory bar. Everything matches up really nicely. We're installed. One thing you'll notice, and at least we noticed, is that this bash plate is on a much shallower angle. And that's because this crossmember, this front crossmember, is actually lower compared to, say, a 150. Now what that means is you're probably more likely to hit something and transfer a load through to this front crossmember, and that's why we've gone to the trouble of having these braces here. Now what that does is this extra brace attaches to our underbody guards, which offers another structural member that runs across the middle of that brace, that crossmember, and then ties it to the chassis. So we've got the cross brace bolted here, here, and here. Adds a lot of strength across the front there. So there you have it, our X700 underbody guards for the Prado 250 all installed, as well as those extra braces for the front crossmember. Make sure you check out our video on material testing. Otherwise, if you want more information on the guards, visit our website, kun.com.au.